I am getting ready to plant beans in my garden at the new homestead. So I thought I would walk you through some of the basic terms and information for growing beans. Beans have basically two different growth habits. They either grow bushy and close to the ground, kind of under 2 feet, and are self-supporting, or they are trailing or vining, and we call those ones pole beans because they need a pole or a trellis to grow up in order to be the most happy and to get the best yields. You can grow green beans and not have them be green at all. Some beans are purple, and most of the time they turn more of a greenish color when you cook them. Other beans are more of a yellow color, and they often go by the name of wax beans. The term green bean refers to the fact that the bean is green or young and underdeveloped. It's the same with peppers, actually. You can pick beans at multiple stages of maturity and use them at each of those stages. So green beans are sometimes called snap beans because of the snap sound they make when you break them up into pieces to cook them. Or sometimes they're called string beans because historically the varieties had a long fibrous string along one side that you would pull off before cooking. But most modern varieties don't have a string like that anymore. Once beans get a little more mature and the seed inside starts to plump up, you can shell the beans at that point and cook them in a recipe that you would use dry beans in, but you skip the soaking that you would do if the beans were dried. And then ultimately you can leave the beans on the plant until the pods go completely dry, and you can shell the dry beans at that point. And those dry beans are excellent for storing through the winter and excellent for longer term storage as long as you keep them dry and airtight. So let me show you some of the beans that I'm going to be growing this year and my methods for planting out beans. I'm growing a couple that I have grown in the past and a couple that I have not grown in the past. So these ones are the Chinese red noodle beans. They are fun for growing up over a trellis, and they make these long snake-like beans that hang down that are red and so pretty. You have to really keep up on picking them, or else when they start to make their seeds, then they stop producing as much. I'm gonna try a new pole bean this year called the Emirate pole bean. I've never tried this one before, but I wanted to have a couple of pole beans to go up over the trellis, and I wanted to have a couple of bush beans. One kind of bush bean I have is my dragon tongue beans, and I love these ones. I've grown a lot of, I've been growing them for maybe 6 years, and I've been saving seeds from them. And so this is actually gonna be my 4th year growing these in Indiana and saving the seeds. So hopefully they're getting better acclimated to the growing conditions of Indiana. Beans are one of the easiest crops to save seeds from. I almost forgot to save seeds last year. So I don't have a ton saved from last year. I want to save more this year for planting next year. I like the dragon tongue beans. They're kind of when they ripen, they're more of a yellow colored bean with these red to purple streaks across them, so they're really pretty fun. A new bean that I'm trying this year is the Slenderette beans, and the reason I chose these ones is that it said that these ones are very tender even when you don't catch them in time, so that's always good when we get busy. The third type of bean that I'm growing this year is a bean for using as a dry bean, this dwarf horticultural Taylor bean. So this is it is a bush bean, but it sometimes goes by the name of October bean, and it's actually a really pretty reddish streaked bean. And so this is one that is good for shelling and drying, and the woman at the shop said that they were particularly easy to shell, that she had her granddaughter do it, so hopefully that will be good for my kids as well. You can soak beans in water for a couple of hours to help plump them up and give them a head start when you're going to plant them. These seeds have been soaking about 2 hours, and I want to show you what they look like after soaking for about 2 hours compared to what they look like before over here. So it helps them soak up a bunch of water so that they, especially if you're not having a lot of rain in the forecast, that pre-soaking your beans can really get them a head start to start sprouting. Also, I grabbed some of this inoculant for the beans to help the beans fix nitrogen for my garden for the future. I plant out my beans between 4 and 6 inches apart. A nice compact spacing to try and crowd out weeds. I'm using a Sharpie to help me plant. I like the blunt end of a Sharpie to make little holes that are wide enough for my bean seed to go down in. I'm growing my runner beans up these trellises that I have to make a bean tunnel. I love bean tunnels and teepees and anything like that that just makes the garden seem a little more magical, especially for children. We've been having a real dry and hot spell the last number of weeks. So I've been coming out twice a day, once in the early morning and once as the sun goes down, to water the beans to keep them nice and moist while they are sprouting. And I'm starting to see success. My first few beans are popping up. And I can't wait to see what a great harvest we get this year. Thanks for coming along today. If you like this type of growing guide, make sure and check out my video about garlic. Oh look, it's nature. Hey, can you stop yelling? Just play, don't yell.